Insomniac's Marvel Spider-Man 2 is finally here after 5 years of anticipation, and between that time we've had 3 story DLCs for the first game and a spin-off featuring Miles which carried on the events from the first entry. And it goes without saying that every one of those games kept pushing it consistently as far as the narrative and the overall presentation. I personally preferred the first game more from a narrative standpoint when compared to Miles' spin-off, but I can't ignore the amount of gameplay elements and improvements that were incorporated from Miles' game, which would eventually become a staple in the sequel. I took as much time as I could with this game on purpose like I normally would, doing side missions, collectibles and getting that platinum trophy in the process. So I think it's only right that I share my thoughts on everything that I did. But the main question is, did it enhance the experience from the previous entries while surpassing it, or did it fall short? Let's get into it. So the story starts with Harry staring at the symbiote tank he was placed in due to his illness, which was revealed in the first game. His dad walks in shortly afterwards and Harry tells him to keep the promise of letting him out if the procedure doesn't work. His dad reassures him and then proceeds to transfer the symbiote onto him, which obviously doesn't look comfortable. He's then placed into the tank shortly afterwards. We then skip to present day with Miles at his desk working on his college application. Peter then rushes in on his first day as the teacher of the class, which was something that both him and Miles discussed potentially doing in the previous game, so it was interesting to see it playing out. But after a few awkward scenes later, Miles notices a lot of sand flying across the city. He checks it out to see if he can handle it alone, but then realizes he's gonna need Peter's help as Sandman is the one behind his disaster obviously. They both quickly head out of the school building while changing into their suits, and that's when we get the classic hold R2 to swing prompt. And I'm not gonna lie, Miles and Peter swinging through the city together during gameplay is something I couldn't wait to experience since the ending of Miles' game. Anyway, they both swing by to stop him while dodging various objects getting hurled at them. The whole time playing it, I kept thinking how incredible this game looks, and this is just the beginning. I mean, how much more crazier can it get? The controls are pretty much the same as before, L1 and R1 to web throw objects back at enemies and circle to dodge. And even though the combat is similar, you'll notice extra moves during certain attacks. We now get some new and returning gadgets to play with, like the spider arms, which also has a variety of abilities you can unlock and assign to specific buttons, which means that the gadget wheel from the previous game is now gone. There are only 4 gadgets you can assign, obviously separate to the special moves with the spider arms, and honestly, I'm fine with that because I didn't really use a lot of the gadgets in the previous game anyway, so I think it's a good balance. And when it comes to the skill tree, we get separate ones for Miles' Venom powers as well as Peter's spider arms and Venom powers, or symbiote I guess. They also get a shared skill tree for traversal and a variety of combat moves. The gadgets are also shared between both Spider-Men, so that means all upgrades apply to both as well, which is good. And of course you acquire these upgrades from doing side missions, stopping crimes while traversing the map or finding collectibles, so yeah, I recommend doing everything when it pops up because it's gonna make leveling up and getting these upgrades a lot easier. And last but not least, you can also upgrade your health, your damage, meaning how much you can inflict or how good your defense can get, your focus, which is what you would build up to heal your character or to do special takedowns depending on how much focus you've built up, and of course traversal, meaning things like swing speed or web wing speed, if you get what I mean. And like I said before, you really want to try and get as much of these upgraded when you get the chance to, especially while playing on a higher difficulty like I did, but especially because it just makes the overall experience a lot better. Anyway, I think I've pretty much covered all I can as far as gameplay features. I really want to get into the pros and cons because there's a lot to say, and I'll give more details on these features within those sections, but yeah, we'll start with the positives first. Even though it's not a perfect game, Spider-Man 2 does a lot of things right in my opinion, and I really want to highlight those things. Let's start with the visuals. Now this game looks incredible, especially the weather changes while playing through the game's story. There were a lot of moments while swinging through the city where I couldn't help but move the camera around to admire the visuals, and this is the case especially during cutscenes. The facial animation and the performance on pretty much all the characters really shine in this game. Plus the draw distance, whether you're really high up in the air or staring further out into the city, is some of the best I've seen in any game as of now. I also like how instantaneous everything is in this game, like when it comes to fast traveling or swapping between both Spider-Men. The way fast traveling works in this game is so much better than any game I've played so far. It really does put you on any part of the map you select as long as you've done all the side activities on that part of the map, and I didn't mind that personally. Swapping characters automatically when you pick their side activities is cool, but I do think that some of these could have been done by either one of them to be honest, but I liked it regardless. The music while swinging is a lot less intrusive and more subtle, but still works incredibly well. That happened in the previous game, but only during certain points. It's not a major thing, but it's definitely appreciated. Another cool feature is obviously the web wings, and at first I thought it would be something that would overshadow swinging around the city, but it actually complements it very well. Even though there were moments where I felt like I was playing a whole different game, but it's definitely a feature I didn't think I would like as much as I did. and now it feels like going back to the previous games won't be as fun when it comes to traversing the city. The web swinging mechanics has had some big changes. First of all, swing speed is so much faster now, and when you mix it in with the different web swinging techniques you can unlock and then quickly switching it into the web wings, especially when you get into one of those wind tunnels, you really gain some crazy momentum. It's something I found myself doing a lot while playing. I like that you can skid on the water when you land on it while swinging fast. The fact that you can charge your jump while perched is really good, and being able to web slingshot from almost anywhere on the map is great. Plus there are dedicated slingshot locations that give you an extra boost as well. Also, all the random events you can come across while playing really makes the map feel more alive. It's not on the level of Red Dead Redemption 2 or anything like that, but it's something I can appreciate. And last but not least, the accessibility options are back and a lot more expansive this time. And no, there's not really a need for me to use some of these options, but it's good that it's at least there for a variety of gamers to choose how they want to play. Anyway, that's pretty much all I can remember. Let's get into the parts of the game that I felt could have been handled a lot better, unfortunately. Like I said earlier, this game isn't perfect, and it had a lot of glaring issues that affected my overall experience. There were new things that were introduced in the game that worked and others that just felt unpolished and unnecessary. Like moments where you have to ride a bike. Yeah, that's right, you ride bikes in this game. See, I wouldn't mind it so much if it worked well, obviously, or if it was more of a side activity, but the fact that you have to do it within the story twice is kind of annoying, especially when it's buggy as hell. Long story short, it's just not for me. Not being able to replay side missions apart from the Mysterio ones is crazy to me, especially when the first game didn't have this issue at all. Plus, not being able to change the weather or time of day is disappointing as well. Now this one is more story orientated, but I wish Kraven was more like Taskmaster, how he would randomly pop up and fight you. You know, like a hunter stalking his prey type of thing. I don't know, I just felt like he was underutilized in my opinion. I like the dialogue changes while stopping crime when Peter gets the black suit, but I wish it was referenced during certain side missions. Speaking of which, that ending battle with Venom was kind of disappointing personally. I feel like we didn't get to do much of what was advertised. For instance, there's a scene where Peter gets Venom to chase him in order to get him away from his hideout or whatever, but we don't even get to play it. I just wish there was more of that instead of Mary Jane sections. Speaking of which, I'll say this. It's definitely better than the first game in some aspects, but I just don't know how she's able to take down enemies easily when Miles and Peter have to do so much to knock out similar enemy types, and that's why I have an issue with it. It just doesn't flow right. The game does try to explain it by saying that she trained with Sable, but look, I can appreciate different gameplay elements for pacing purposes, but this just didn't hit for me. And last but not least, the glitches and crashes I had to deal with, and the fact that they would sometimes happen during dramatic or intense moments. There were too many to mention, but one that stuck out to me was when crimes would appear on the map but then disappear when I got to them. That was annoying, but it did get patched in a recent update, which is good. And of course, this right here. Yeah. Anyway, those are the negatives that stuck out to me. There were a lot more, but I didn't think they were worth mentioning because this video is getting too long already. But let me know down below what kind of issues and weird glitches you had to deal with. Let's discuss it in the comments. Despite all the issues I pointed out, Spider-Man 2 still had a lot of moments that had me really excited and surprised, but it just wasn't consistent enough like the first game in my opinion. Sure, the first one still had MJ sections, but I felt like this time around they tried to make it so much more different in order to get the player more interested. And I can appreciate it, but not enough to have me play it that many times instead of playing as the main heroes. I mean, there was a part of the game where you got to control Venom, and I enjoyed that section a lot, but I felt there could have been more if certain parts of the game were taken out. Just like the previous game, some side missions ended up developing story elements that are clearly going to be expanded on in some sort of DLC possibly, so I'm looking forward to that. Insomniac has come out and said that Miles is going to be this universe's main Spider-Man, which of course was hinted at in the game along with another major character being involved in the future, but I'm sure Peter will come back. He's going to have to, but he obviously won't be the main focus. Don't know if I'm 100% with the idea, but I'd like to give it a chance. Overall, I thought this game started off incredible, but then kind of slows down too much during the middle section. It does pick up momentum again, but then takes a dive once more at the end, but that's just my opinion. Let me know down below what you thought about the game overall, and feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And of course, thank you so much if you made it this far into it. Anyway, that's all I've got for now, so I'll catch you in a bit.